join us, well, shame on them if they miss a minute or two, because it was starting at, I say 6 o'clock because I'm in Ireland at 6 o'clock Irish time. So thank you everyone for joining me for this 45 to 60-minute session. I'll spare you the bio on who I am and what I do. You can check out my LinkedIn for that. My name's Rian. I work as part of Sandler Trading, but that's I'll limit it to that. I really want to deliver some value, and I'm hoping, like any talk I give, that at the end of these 45, 50 minutes that you'll come away with 2 or 3 golden nuggets that you can use over the next several months as we prospect in these times. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to share a screen, give you a quick overview of exactly what we hope to achieve. There'll be a couple of exercises that I want you to do, and then afterwards, if you've taken anything from it, you'll naturally have exercises as well that you'll want to complete to fulfill your pain puzzle. So I'm going to share my screen and going to present this. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to think of the last purchase that you made. I'll give you about 15 seconds to think of the last purchase you made. The last purchase I made was the latest iPhone. It's not arrived yet. It's actually arriving in 3 separate boxes, which I find awfully strange. It's arriving with the charger, the cover, case, and then the phone all in separate. Anyway, but now that you've got a purchase that you've made in mind, the idea of this is to think of the reason why you bought it. And most people, when they buy something like an iPhone, will say, I bought it because not iPhone on discount, but because it was on sale. I bought it because it will help me get fitter or healthier. If it's a Fitbit, it might be. That was one of my previous purchases. I bought it because it will help me work faster. And all of these are reasons reasons you come up with to justify why you bought it. But what we're really hoping to achieve here is to look past that and get into the real pain of why prospects may or may not buy what we have. And in that, again, this is just a quick level overview. What we hope to achieve is there's 4 buying emotions. Emotion is the one we're going to focus on, and the 4 buying emotions are gain in the future, gain in the present, pain in the present, and pain in the future. Pain in the present being the strongest motive to buy. So over the next 45 minutes, we're going to work together to build what I call a pain template. It'll be up on your screen in a second or two, and you'll see what that looks like, so that you can finish this after we finish the call based on the target persona that you're going after, and go 3 layers deep on pain. We'll touch on every single layer, and then we'll have some ways of identifying how to tell if your prospect's in pain mode. And I'll give you some questions and a tool at the end that you can take away and put into your pain puzzle template. So 3 levels of buying pain that I want to discuss with you are: level 1 is the observable surface level problem, and that's something like revenues 20% down. Then the second level down from that is, reasons or cause of the pain. And that might be, the sales team are not hitting their target, distribution costs, COVID, exchange rate. They're reasons for the pain. The pain being that sales are down by 20%. And then a layer below that are the business and personal impact of the problem. And they may be, you may miss your bonus, you may have to lay some staff off, and it may affect your personal reputation. So there's just a quick example of top level pain is revenues down by 20%. The reasons and causes for that pain could be distribution costs have increased, COVID could have affected that, people not hitting their target could affect revenue being down, and then the business and personal impact could be you may miss your bonus, and you may have to lay some people off. So that's just a quick example of the 3 kind of layers of pain. But again, I want this not to be about me, to be about you over these next 45 minutes. So we're going to build out this pain template. If my Mac would work, there we go. Oh, we went far too far ahead of ourselves. There we go. Present. So 4 titles we're going to have on top is title, problem, reason, impact. Again, problem is pain level 1, reason is pain level 2, and impact is pain level 3. As I said, problem, revenue down by 20%, reason, salespeople not hitting their targets, and impact, I might miss my bonus or I might have to lay some people off. What I'd like you to do is you can do it now on an iPad or take out a pen and paper and write down the title of the target persona you're going after. So in my world, it would be Senior Vice President of Sales, Chief Revenue Officer. I'd also go after account executives for public programs, maybe even SDRs and BDRs. So if you write down on your piece of paper, you can do it now with us. I will give you some time. I will break for a minute or two in a second. Write down the title that you're going after. And also, if anybody wouldn't mind, if you are going to talk, just raise your hand. If not, put yourself on mute. But write down the title on the left column that you're going to go after. And then in the far right hand, sorry, the next column, the problem that you see there, the reason for that problem, I'd come up with at least 3 reasons for that problem, and then the impact for the reason for that problem. So I'll give you an example on screen now in a second. You'll see that we've got, we go, so I keep having to take it off and back on. So the title that I chose here was CEO. The problem was loss of revenue. The reason was, you know, long time to hire. They have to integrate with their new employees and they've got soft budget spend. And then the impact for that is they can't have employees start earning money for the company at a fast rate, and that time spent on boarding, there's time spent on boarding rather than revenue generating activities. So going to pause for a minute or two. If you can write down your 1, 2, 3 titles that you're going after, you can either write down the title or the age, really doesn't matter, and then the problem, and then we're going to go a second layer deeper, which is what's the 2 or 3 reasons for that problem, and then and feel free to screenshot this before I move on so you can look at this, and then when we've got the reasons, what's the impact of those reasons if we don't achieve them or if they happen. Or so we're going to pause for 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll regroup in 2 or 3 minutes time, just to give you a minute or two to get down these this pain funnel document template that you can take away with you as we go through the next couple of stages, but also you can expand on it after this call. I'll continue talking over while you do it, but look, this is something that I use daily. I don't create it and then completely leave it for years and years on end. What I do is I update this every single quarter, because if we're being honest with ourselves, the problems that CEOs, or in my world, VP of sales, suffered from in January to today are completely wildly different. And they could well be completely wildly different in June of next year. So I take this out every single quarter. Sometimes I update it, sometimes I don't update it. But I will come up with the 3 most common problems that my potential prospects are suffering from. And I'll have 3 reasons for each of those problems, and then I'll have an impact for each of those reasons. And then I've got a big template sheet that I have, and with that I can create questions that I want to use in my email or my phone calls for prospecting. So again, I'll keep quiet and show up for the next 2 minutes so you can create that, and then we'll come back together in 2 minutes time.
Ryan, just a small request. You as an admin, I think you can mute everyone. It's kind of disturbing.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I think you just right click and then mute.
Bear with me a second. There we go. I've muted everyone. If anyone does want to talk or if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. And again, we'll regroup in 2 minutes' time. I can see some private hello messages. Hello to those people who want to remain private. Hi, Judy, as well. I can see your face there. Nice to see you. All right, let me reshare my screen. All right, so by now you've either started or finished. I doubt everyone's finished completely, but if you have, congratulations to you. The title, as again in my world, I said Senior Vice President of Sales, CRO, potentially sometimes even account executives. The problem, one that I shared was, revenue down by 20%. The reason, a couple of reasons could be sales team not hitting their target, distribution costs have risen, or even that the exchange rate has changed, or COVID could be another one. And then the impact as a result of that would be I will miss my bonus. I may have to lay people off. And my personal reputation, ego slash maybe on the line as well. So whether you finish that now, we're going to move on. You can take some time to finish that later on. What I really want to achieve over the next 35, 40 minutes is to give you 2 or 3 tactics that you can use if your prospects are being wishy-washy. Then how to identify prospects that are in pain mode, and then a thing that we call the pain funnel, questions that you can use to ask your prospects to bring them down that pain funnel, as we say. But before we do that, I'm going to unshare my screen for a second, and I'm going to go to see if anybody wants to volunteer an example of their pain template. Yes, I have just asked you to unmute there.
Thanks, guys. So my name is Gliss Murati, and we typically serve CIOs and heads of research for different investment banks and insurance companies to help them understand geopolitics more and how it impacts their investments and their assets under management. So my title would be, or my target would be CIOs or heads of research in different banks and different private equity firms. The problems right now that they're facing is loss of revenue, and also feeling very anxious about where to put their money given such an uncertain future with COVID and with the rise of geopolitics. So that's that. And then I said a loss of assets under management. So that means their clients may pull out money from their investment funds because they're not performing well, or they have a loss of market share in the actual market because they misallocate funds to projects that are more cautious, therefore less profitable. And my impact would be being accountable to shareholders when it comes time to their annual reviews or every quarter, or making more cautious investing decisions, which lead to being very scared of investing money into emerging markets or other parts of the world where they would have if they have taken our advice or if they commissioned us for research.
Nice. I like it. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to raise their hand and share? We'll take one more. If not, that's okay. And we'll move on to how to identify if a prospect is in fact in pain mode. I'll give it 10 more seconds if anybody wants to share. All right, we'll move on. I'm going to reshare my screen. So now that you've started to create your pain template, one of the next things you'll want to, or one of the common things that I'll get is, real, I've created this pain template, but I don't know how to identify if my prospect's in pain mode. Now, this is for if you're talking virtually, or you're in person, or you're on the phone. These words may or not they're not as commonly used in email, but the words on screen, take a screenshot. These are words that prospects use when they are in pain. Frustrated, upset, disappointed, worried, annoyed. I put frustrated twice, and I put worried twice. Anxious and concerned are all words. So once you hear words like that or similar to that, you know, okay, this is in pain mode. And then what I'm going to now show you is the pain template of You said you were, upset or worried about not hitting target. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And now I'm going to show you the painful, which is where you can go through a series of questions to get them to, spill their guts on pain and go as far as the 3 levels, as I said, reason, impact, and impact being the final one, which is personal. So really getting to that 3rd level pain. So I'm assuming everyone is taking a screenshot of this. If not, you can watch the recording or, ask me for the slides afterwards and I'll share them with you. But this is the pain funnel. I'll share a quick way of how to remember it afterwards, but a quick walkthrough is you start with the top, which is the details. Can you tell me about that? Can you be a bit more specific? Can you give me an example? So when you hear one of these or a word similar to this mentioned, you start at the top, you gather the details. When you've gathered the details, you want to find out how long has this been a problem. Because sometimes if this has been a problem for 3 or 4 years and they've learned to live with it, how likely are they to change? So find out how long it has been a problem. And then the next thing you want to do is find out what they've done to try and fix it, if anything. Again, if it's been a problem for a while, they may not have done anything for a while, and this may not be a huge priority. Another thing I like to use is the thermometer, which is testing them on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being like not looking to change this quarter, 10 being like this is a huge priority, this is something I'm looking to get fixed. Whether it's with us or not, it doesn't matter. Where do you lie? So I'm trying to figure out, what have you tried to do about this? And when you did try to do, why didn't it work, or what did work? And then I want to figure out the cost. How much do you think that has cost you? Someone who's on the line who's very good with discovering pain by numbers and really going deep on this is Marcus Kauke. If he is on the line, Marcus, drop me a message and I'm happy to unmute you if you want to talk a little bit on this. And then the next thing is feelings. So again, how did you feel about that? Have you given up trying to deal with it? But a great way to remember the pain funnel that I found is Dave took Adam's current fortune. So D for Dave, standing for details. When they mention one of those words that I shared in the last slide deck, you start with details, which is Dave, which is tell me a little bit about that. Can you be more specific? Can you give me an example? The next one is took, which is time. How long has this been a problem for? The next one is Adam, which is actions, which is what have you tried to do about that and did that work? The next one is current, which is cost, which is how much do you think that's cost you? And then S, which is fortune, which is feelings, which is how did you feel about that? Have you given up trying to deal with the problem? So pain funnel is what we go into after we've heard one of those words that demonstrate to us that our prospect is in pain mode. Going back to the template that you've created, the reason is the thing you focus on here. So I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, it keeps freezing on me, it does, but we'll present. So the next thing we're going to jump onto is a couple of techniques or things that come up that will help you when you're in that pain conversation with your prospect. So 2 things I want to share with you here. The first one is sometimes you hear wishy-washy words, and what we want to do here when we hear words, and some examples on the screen are, sounds good, or let me sleep on it, or I'll get back to you, or I need to give it top consideration. So there's some wishy-washy words as an example. What we really want to do now is we want to test commitment. So in Sadler, we do this thing called stroke, repeat, reverse, which is where we stroke them. So we'll say something like, hey, the name I can see on my screen is Owen. So I'll say, sorry about that. I say, hey, Owen, that's a great question. When you say you're concerned about not hitting target, blah, 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 what does that mean? So I'm pushing it back on them. Or when you say, this sounds good, but you want to sleep on it, blah, 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 you got to insert the prospect statement here. What does that mean? To reverse it back on them, we're trying to test commitment here. Another great way, a technique that I use is it is called the split reverse. So It's when someone comes with, excuse my French here, but like a bullshit statement to you, you know, like they say something like, sounds good, let me sleep on it. Or they may say something to you like, how many people do you work with in the SaaS industry? Or how many people do you work with in the finance industry? Like, or like one that I know that I've got is, look, how long have you been in America? When I did a session in America, no one gives a shit how long I've been in America. The person wanted to know what I was teaching. You know, have I done something like this with a group like this before? Not when I landed in America, which is actually how I answered it. But the split reverse is when you get one of those stupid questions, or when you get a wishy-washy word. And I'll back up for a second and explain why we use a split reverse. Naturally, when we're trying to find pain, we have to reverse a prospect probably 2 to 3 times before they tell us the truth, because we all know that prospects lie, and they lie a lot. So we've got to reverse them. So instead of reversing them 2 or 3 times, we can go straight to the split reverse and not waste all of that time. And the split reverse might sound something like, you know, if you say to me, hey, look, how many people do you work with in the SaaS sector? I might say something to you like, look, that's a great question. Are you asking me that question because you want to know how? Are you asking me that question because you want to know how well I know this world, because the last guy you brought in didn't really know the world at all, didn't understand it? Or are you asking me that question because the last thing that you want to do is you want to bring in someone who eats, sleeps, and breathes and lives in this world? You're looking for a fresh perspective. So give them a if or a when scenario, you know, so that you're not cornering yourself into a corner and you're laying 2 options out. So what I do is I go back to reasons. I find the reason that may be, and then I go to the impact, and I take the 2 impacts and I use them as my if or when. So as I say, split reverse is something that I use if I get one of those, as I say, bullshit statements like, how long have you been working in the SaaS industry? I'll give them a is it this or is it this? And then when I've got their answer, then I go and I find where I am in the pain funnel, and I go down through the pain funnel. So I will stop sharing for a moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check the chat here and see if anybody questions. Oh yes, Marcus, if you're still on, will you give me a thumbs up? Can you give me another example of this technique? Ogie, I'm going to unmute if you want to unmute yourself. Sure. Oh, Marcus is there, is he? Marcus,
yeah.
How we doing? In terms of
Yeah,
paying by numbers, what I was hoping you could do is give people an example of really how they could go deep on that, and how that can have an impact.
Okay, well, and the split reverse is also sometimes called the Chinese menu. When you go to a Chinese takeaway, you can order the set meal, and you have the starter, the main course, and the side dish. So when someone asks you a question, you can say, so Rian, are you asking me about my experience in SaaS because you're only interested in someone who's got 10 plus years? Are you asking me because you're looking for somebody who can bring fresh ideas, or some other reason? And giving them the some other reason allows them to put whatever their real reason is if you haven't hit it. Now, the subject of pain by numbers is really important. Most people, when they are talking about pain, in fact, let me just put my, where am I? I've disappeared. Most people, when they're talking about pain, have a tendency to try and convince people. And what you actually have to do is validate and fascinate, not correct and then convince. And I've just taken on a CRO role for a cybersecurity company. And what we do is we do password free. So you never, ever have to put another password in. Okay. Now, that's a feature. but the pain by numbers looks something like this. If I'm going into a large organization with 70,000 people, on average, people spend 3.5 minutes per day putting in passwords. So 70,000 times 3.5 is 245,000 minutes per day being lost. You multiply that by 240 days, and that's 58.8 million minutes lost every year just putting in passwords. You divide that by 60 for the hour, and that's 980,000 full-time employee equivalent hours. Divide it by 8, and that gives you 122,500 full days. Divide that again by 240, and now I can demonstrate that I can deliver an additional 510 working years every single year by helping them eliminate the password problem. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Okay. And what you need to do is you need to think outside of the box. No one in the history of humanity has or will ever buy sales training, a CRM system, an ERP system, or a drill. No one wakes up in the morning saying, you know what I really want? Some accounting software. It just doesn't happen. There's a reason, because people buy outcomes. And if you don't understand the outcome and you can't work backwards from there, from the user and the company, the customer, then chances are you will just be a product seller. And anyone who sells product will probably degenerate into a conversation around features and benefits. And if you're talking about features and benefits, that's being a pill pusher. No one wants to pay a lot of money for a pill. So you'll inevitably end up in a conversation around price. You got people who are slightly better, who claim to be authorities, but they all kind of sound the same. You only have to look at all these social media gurus on LinkedIn who claim to be authorities, but every one of them sounds the same. And so they very quickly descend into price. And the skill in being a great seller is being somebody who can move beyond that and either becoming a seller who sells on their strength and people come to them to be defended, or they come to them for their wisdom. And that's really where we want to be. We want to be our customer's partner. And by understanding how to extrapolate using their data, how you can help their business across multiple lines, not just flog them an upgrade or flog them a piece of software or flog them a product that helps one department, but you can suddenly help half a dozen departments, and you can bring in another free 510 employees. All of a sudden, you are their ally. You're not their accomplice, and you're not their adversary. Okay. Donald has just said, I communicate productivity gains as cost avoidance of new hires. Good. Yep. Okay. So again, Donald, taking that further, when you look at what the cost of a bad hire is, I did a calculation and I can share it with you. If you hire an enterprise salesperson, they're the wrong person, that can cost you between 35 and 125 times salary. We also know that it takes 3 years for a business to recover when a salesperson leaves. Now, that's a hell of a lot of cost. And when you have a bad manager who then drives out a number of their people because they see them as an idiot or they're not helping them, then that can cost them 5 to 10 times that number. So yeah, absolutely. Make sure that you're using those numbers in order to get them to see that recruitment is not, they're not buying recruitment. When they hire somebody, they're buying someone to solve a problem and to achieve an outcome. So if you sell recruitment like that, then you elevate yourself. When I was in recruitment, and this was 20 years ago, I was getting 36% of first year's total guaranteed gross emoluments. So that was everything from health, pension, life, any guarantees, you name it. And my fees were 5 times more than my competition. Absolutely. And you're not selling a mattress. You're not only selling a good night's sleep. What you're selling is a good day the following day. You're selling being more mentally aligned, more switched on. So you've got to think about the narrative that they're running, because people come to you having experienced a journey that started way, way, way before you ever came on the scene. There's a really fabulous book by a guy called Bob Mester, Moesta, and it's called Demand Side Sales. Highly recommended if you want to understand the customer journey. And one other book before I shut up, which is called Unlocking the Customer Value Chain by Tallis, and I'll spell the surname or the name Thales, and the surname is Teixeira. Unlocking the Customer Value Chain. So I'm done.
I'm just writing down the name of that person in the chat there. That was going to be my question for Marcus, because I know that Marcus, I don't know if anybody knows Marcus. I know he has a couple of fans. Some people have changed their background to Marcus himself, but Marcus reads a lot of books, and he's one person I go to ask who he's not the author of any books, but he's certainly. I'm joking. It's a joke.
All right. Okay. My name got taken off the book, but I am definitely an author.
Yeah, no, he is the author. Making Channel Sales is his book. I'll put a link in the recording if anybody wants to buy it. But yeah, no, I know Marcus has read a lot of books. So Marcus, someone's asking you for the book, but that was my question. What top 2 books would you recommend to people? Jim has asked.
So I'll put them in the Demand Side Sales by Bob Moesta. You carry on. I'll put this Unlocking the Customer Value Chain. I'll put these in the chat.
Thank you very much. Well, look, thanks for that, Marcus. I didn't expect a Legend of the Sales Guide to drop in on this, and certainly didn't expect him to share 5 or 6 minutes of wisdom, but appreciate it. So in terms of this call, the whole objective, the kind of 2 or 3 golden takeaways that I wanted people to take away was that, one, if you weren't familiar with it yet, there's not just one level of pain, there's 3 levels of pain. There's the problem, there's the reason, and the impact. So I shared on screen, and I'll share it again in a moment, the template that I use where you write down the title of the person you're going after, the problem, the reason, and the impact. So you can go 3 layers deep on the pain. I then shared, and I'll share it again, the 10 to 12 words that you'll commonly hear, and words similar to that when your prospect's in pain mode, and then what we use in Sandler called the pain funnel, which I broke down. Again, I'll run through all this for a couple more seconds. And then at the very end, I've got a giveaway to give away, and I'll send you all back on your merry way, depending on what time it is, back to your morning, evening, or night time. So let me just share my screen, and here we go. So we got this. So 3 levels of pain: observable surface level problem, which is the first level. Then there's the reasons. So the surface level problem I said is revenue down by 20%. Reasons or causes for that pain are, sales team not hitting the target, exchange rate might be one, and COVID, as I said. And then the third level of pain, which is the personal and business impact, which is personal. I might not get my bonus, I might miss my bonus, or my reputation, as I said. And then the business, we might have to make pay cuts. So you can screenshot this, or you can ask me for the deck, and I'll send it to you. The editable version is the version I'll send, where you put in the title, the problems, the reasons, and the impacts. Trying to go 3 layers deep on each of them. There's an example of one. And then these are the words that we listen out for to identify prospects in pain mode. And then we use the pain funnel to ask them questions. I then shared that the way I remember it is Dave took Adam's current fortune. If you're in Sandler, as long as Marcus was in Sandler, you probably can say that off the top of your head at any given moment, the entire thing. But if you're new to it, Dave took Adam's current fortune: details, time, actions, cost, feelings. Then 2 things. First thing is wishy-washy words, such as sounds good, let me sleep on it, I'll get back to you. What we're trying to do here is test for commitment. So we do the stroke, repeat, reverse. That's a great question. When you say, what does that mean? And the one that I didn't share on screen, but the one that I mentioned, and Marcus said it was called the Chinese menu as well, was the split reverse, where I give people 2 options. So I'll get a bullshit question like, how many people have you trained in the SaaS sector? And then I'll say, when you ask me, is it for this reason or for this reason? And I'm avoiding cornering myself into a corner, and I'm keeping my option open. When they give me that reason, I then go down as I say, look, here, they've given me the reason, and then I talk around impact by, actually, Marcus, if you want to come back, I'm more than happy to bring you back to talk about strip lining. I hadn't anticipated talking about this call, but if you want to share, you can share. And then
about what?
Strip lining. So we talked around the split reverse. They give you you give them two reasons, and then you've obviously got to strip line them at the end.
Okay, so if you imagine the bottom end of a clock, so you've got from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and 3 o'clock is positive, 9 o'clock is negative, and 6 o'clock is neutral. Now, the problem is that often the tendency is to hear something positive and jump on it. But the rule is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So what we need to do is encourage the prospect to close themselves. And you use this technique, strip lining. For those of you who've fished, when you go fishing, the first thing your instinct tells you to do when you get a tug on the line is to hoik it. But what you want the fish to do is actually bite on the bait and then swim away. And then you can set the hook with a flick of the wrist. And strip lining is a similar technique. So when a prospect says something to you, so Rian, just give me any question or objection.
We're not ready to buy at the moment.
You know, that's what I thought. I get the sense that even if we were the last provider on the planet, you'd never buy from us. Would that be a fair statement?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying not right now.
Okay. But when you're saying not right now, are you trying to spare my feelings because you don't really want to say no to my face? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, being honest, yeah.
Okay, well, look, now that it's over, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If there was one thing, just one thing that your current provider could do better, what would you pick?
Response time.
Interesting. I'm really surprised because ABC companies normally renowned for great response times. I'm confused. Help me understand. Why do they respond slowly to you?
Yeah, well, between us, they brought on a couple of new account managers, and I think we've been given one of their duds. And
okay, so now we've gone from being neutral or standoffish, and by pushing them away, they start to swing in the direction from 9 o'clock, or say 7:30, to 6, and then 5, and then 4. So tell me something. If what we had to offer was as good as what you're getting, but we were able to guarantee those response times, then you still wouldn't change, would you?
No, because if it's as good as what I'm getting, I should just stick with what I have.
Right, so it has to be better. Fair?
Yeah.
So what else would you like? Apart from response times, over and above that, what would you need?
An account manager who knows their shit.
Okay. And if we were able to give you that?
Then I'd see no reason why we couldn't work together.
When you say you see no reason, would you? Are you then going to start talking to me about price?
Look, you know that I'm the decision maker, but every decision maker has someone they go and talk to. So
makes sense.
Between the two of us, I just go and bounce.
So out of role play, you're using this technique in order to generate more information, and by pushing them away, instead of jumping on it and trying to correct and convince, oh, we've got great account managers, you have them make the small commitment. And the key here is to always be contracting. It's to get little agreement, little agreement, little agreement, little agreement. So you don't need to have one big agreement at the end. And they convince themselves. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, Sean, I'll dig out an article on this subject on pendulum theory that I wrote that will help you to understand it.
Excellent. Well, if you send that to me, I can send it to everyone with the recording of this. But one thing just before we finish up is, obviously, if you've been paying attention today, you'll be aware that questions are a big part of what we discussed. So I'd like to offer anyone who wants it, open up your phone, open the camera on your phone, and you can tap the picture, the QR code. It will bring you to my LinkedIn. Send me a direct message and say, hey, Rian, I'd like a copy of the PDF with 125 questions you can ask at any stage of the sales cycle, broken down into eight different categories. And I'm more than happy to send you that if you just drop me a message on LinkedIn. I know a couple other people privately messaged me saying that they'd like the editable version of the template I created. Again, drop me a message on LinkedIn. You just open your camera on your phone, scan that. It will bring you to my LinkedIn page. And that's it. Hope everyone enjoyed today.